Okay. Chris, if you can hear me, this was for you. We are going to go over, in the case of chronically rolling your ankle, I'm going to demonstrate everything on this left leg. We basically want to improve your foot and ankle, its ability to communicate with your brain, to be able to make adjustments at this joint here and at this particular region, which is typically where most of us sprain or roll. There's many muscles that cross through there, and by taping over these muscles, that is just creating a tactile cue, meaning just there's something on our skin that our brain becomes aware of that can then help us to prevent or make adjustments basically at our foot and ankle quicker and prevent a sprain. So in lieu of like a really, really stiff, rigid ankle tape job that is traditional, like in sports, that is going to actually really restrict movement, this is not. So if you find some kinesiotape, sometimes they're already pre-cut, which is fine, but if not, I would say we're going to basically do two main strips, and I'm going to show you a third. We can get really aggressive if we want, but the two that I really like are going to anchor from the bottom of your foot. Okay, so we're going to have a roll of tape or several pieces of tape. Anchor one from the bottom of the foot on the outside edge, so kind of where this like bony prominence is. So if we go to this ankle bone, right, and if we go about 45 degrees anterior to that toward the floor is about where that bony prominence is. I like to wrap around that because there's some muscle attachments there that help control this ankle motion. So anchor it underneath that bony prominence, and then we're going to wrap it around up and over toward the back of this bony prominence and all the way up to the knee joint. So it's going to be fairly long. Now, kinesiotape stretches, so I'm only going to run it just kind of straight up from anchor point to about my fibular head, which is this bony prominence just below the knee joint. So that's actually probably going to be a little long, so I'm actually going to go back an inch. So I'm going to cut the first piece there. Now, theoretically or ideally, you would have a clean foot, because if we've got a lot of debris, sweat, lotion, sunscreen on our foot and leg, also hair, which of course you're going to have, those things can get in the way. So that is going to affect how well this may work for you, keep in mind. Or we may just have to work around, keep the strip shorter if your hair up here is a little too intense. I'm not sure. So if you want to get really particular, you can round the corners. That just sort of helps them from peeling back, which theoretically would help it stay on longer. I don't know that it actually does it, but I think it looks pretty. So I'm going to take one end and I'm just going to rip the corner off. I'm going to just anchor that piece that's about an inch wide right underneath that bony prominence at the foot we talked about. So I'm just going to put it right there. So foot is clean. Ideally, you've wiped it down maybe in a river or creek with some water, a towel, just to try and get rid of the debris as much as you can. Then I'm going to start to unwrap the paper from there. So now I can pull and have some tug in that tape. So I'm going to keep my hand pressured here to keep that anchored. I'm going to pull the band. If I pull 100% maximally, I don't want to do that because it's going to really pull that tension on the band and cause it to come off sooner than later. So I'm going to back off to roughly 50%. Keep that tension as I now trace that route I just described. So you kind of have to curve the tape, right? Keeping that 50% tension. There is no hard and fast rule to that. Again, this is kind of my experience and what's worked for me and my clients. And then I'm going to keep that 50% stretch all the way until the very end, basically, where I'm going to have no tension and just lay that bit down. So ideally, it does come up and cover your fibular head, which is this bony prominence on the outside of our knee joint. And it runs down the outside of the leg over and slightly behind the ankle bone, right over that outside blade, that outside bony prominence of your foot. I hope that helps. Now I'm going to show you the second one.